Hey tankers, what is up? This is Alexbuildit, and today we'll be taking a look at the VK1602 Leopard, one of the new Tier 5 German light tanks. Now with this autoloader, it's almost a little bit better than the Luchs. It's sort of like a upgraded and buffed Luchs without the gun depression. And this thing actually has a little bit of armor, but not too much. We're going to be taking a look at that in depth today, a little bit of gameplay, a little bit of review, a little bit of history, and as normal, we're going to get started into that right now. Remember to enter my 1,000 subscriber contest before the end of February for a chance to win some tanks or maybe some gift cards. The light tank VK1602 Leopard was a planned German reconnaissance vehicle designed from March through October 1942 with the serial production scheduled for April 1943, but the project was abandoned before the first prototype was completely finished. It was originally designed to arm the vehicle with a 75mm cannon, although that was changed to a smaller 50mm cannon, which was an autoloader system used on some Panzer IIIs. It had largely sloped frontal armor in the style of the very successful Panther tank. The VK1602 was fitted with 350mm wide tracks. Production was scheduled to begin in April 1943, but the project was cancelled in January of that same year. The reason for this was that the 50mm was insufficient for combat against modern Soviet and Western tanks, which had been up-armored throughout the war. Also, the Leopard had a very high weight, and it could be used as a scout, though it was more vulnerable and cannot traverse rough ground as easily. For these reasons, it was decided not to be put into mass production. Let's go ahead and take a look at this tank in game. Take a look and pause the video so you can take a look at my loadout. I will be explaining why I carry what I do very shortly here. Really awesome looking Tier 5 German light tank. Let's see what it's good and bad at.
Now it's time to find out in which you excel. What makes you SPECIAL? You're special, you're special, you're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL. Spells out that you're quite swell.
In terms of mobility, this thing's like a Luchs, except for it has 40 degrees of traverse instead of 33, and that is much better than the Luchs. The armor, because this thing has such a slanted front, it can mount some shells, maybe stock guns at Tier 5, but for the majority of rounds they're going to go right through, so just best not to get hit in the first place. Now what's better than the Luchs, instead of a 220 average damage burst, you can do about 300 if all the rounds penetrate, and that is much, much better. This thing's penetration is about the same as the Luchs, which means that it'll be a bit more difficult to damage Tier 7s, and which eventually you will be seeing after the +1, -1 matchmaking is revoked. Take a look right here, but if you have APCR and you find sides, you're still going to be able to penetrate vehicles like that. Right now is the best time to be playing this tank. You should do it while the +1, -1 matchmaking is out. The gun depression is much worse than the Luchs. As you see here, you got to be a little bit careful about how you do it, but everything else is really awesome. One of the most important skills to learn and master is the ability to play well when lower tier. Now I'm going to be showing you what you're supposed to do in a light. Although you can't truly scout in Blitz, it's not as important as the map sizes are super small. If you do it just right, it's slightly usable. I'm going to be showing you how you do this. I sort of turn it into a up-close dual slash spot, which is a bit better thing that you can do in Blitz because of the map size. Anyway, I'm going to be heading along the left here just to see if there's anyone in the town. Normally I'd go caves if I was in a medium, but in a light I can get out of the town quickly if there's trouble, and which you'll be seeing momentarily here. Looks like the team is sort of undecided about where to go, just trying to get some information about where the enemy is before anything else happens. Taking a look over here, checking around the corner. I'm being rather aggressive in the start here, and that's a good thing if I catch the enemy by surprise. Oh look, already spotted one guy. Thinking of coming out, unloading a full clip at him and drawing back. Now you'll notice instead of 5 times you have to hit the button to get rid of all the shells in the clip, there's only 4. And you'd be like, how is it going to do more damage than the Luchs if you have fewer shells to fire? What actually happens is that every time you hit the button you get an extra shell. So basically you get, instead of just firing, let's say the Luchs has 10 shells, you fire 12 instead. Coming around the corner. Seeing what's what. Whoa, don't want to get close to that guy. Now, there was too many people in the town that I could have handled, so I got to see where all the enemies are. It looks like most of them are town. That was kind of dangerous for me to be in. I'll load a full clip on an enemy as I pass by. Reloading, trying to get to the point where they can't hit me. This guy's not looking at me, so I unload a full clip on his side while I'm on the move. Some of those shells missed, but most of them did go through and did a decent amount of damage for a decent roll. Trying to get a point where he can't hit me, but I wasn't quite fast enough. My clip reloads. I get a position where I can duel with him again. I sort of chase him off the ridge, so to speak. As you see, I'm trying to just show my turret, if anything, because remember, Because you have basically what looks to be a Luchs turret, a lot of the armor around the turret is right next to that gun mantlet, so there's a good chance of a lot of shells not really penetrating and damaging you if they aim for your turret, if that's the only thing they see. Another reason for doing it, that even if they don't hit that very trollish gun mantlet, you're just showing less of the tank, so there's less of a chance that they're going to be able to hit you. This is an important skill to master. I am looking for anyone who's crazy enough to show me anything over here. Enemy is moving up. I decide I'm going to not really try to outduel a VK 30.01. That's just a bit tough for me in a light tank right here. Reload, take some shells into that guy. I see an opportunity and decide to take it. Looking around, I'm running along the ridge here. That way in case the VK 30.10D comes, then I'll know immediately and I'll have a chance to react. It is a 3v3. This guy's not paying any attention. I set him on fire. Time to move up. Looking quick right. Making sure that I have maintained situational awareness. Fire a few rounds into him, and ally finishes him off. I unload the entire clip. It looks like part of it was hit into a rock. Come around the corner. There's my ally starting up a circle, and suddenly my own ally rams me. Move around the corner. Using him as cover, as you see right here, I'm shamelessly using him as a shield. The guy's trying to hit me, and no, can't touch this. Thankfully, he's a really awesome guy. He didn't really mind that I used him as a shield, but I got killed anyway. It looks like our team should be able to handle this. The KV2 in town managed to knock out the VK 30.01P. And in the battle results, I ended up doing 4 times as much damage as anyone else on my team. This thing is an absolute awesome upwards forward scout. Play aggressively, find where the enemy is, and get the heck out of there if it's too dangerous. That's a very decent way to play one low tier in this tank. Another word of advice is if you're fighting enemies you can't penetrate from the front, try to get around to their rears. Like you see right here, he's paying attention to someone else. I lit him on fire. Now in certain situations, although I don't recommend it, you may find yourself forced to ram if you want to save an ally, like right here, or in other situations. Notice how many hit points I lose. Is it a viable situation? Yes. In other cases, like if you know an enemy's about to shoot you and the only way you're about to survive is if you ram him, that's definitely a possibility because of your size and weight. You have to remember that you only weigh about 20 tons though. Now I'm going to be showing you how you play this tank as a dueler in equal tier matchups. This is extremely sufficient at doing it this way. Coming around the corner, find an enemy, immediately unload a full clip into him and get the heck out of there. Repeat as necessary. That's the way this first matchup usually goes. As you see, I'm playing it very hit and run. I go ahead and I load a full clip. I got out of there. I reload. As soon as I'm reloaded, I switch to APCR to make sure that I'm not going to not kill him. Someone else gets a kill, unfortunately, and now it's time to move forward again. You each have to try to isolate enemies and work together to destroy them. Like right here, he's distracting him. I unload a full clip. I reload. He lands a full shot into that Leopard. He's using the derp, and it worked perfectly there. Get that clip reloaded, get that clip reloaded, and I pump a huge round into him right there. Almost 300 damage. There's also the really real element of having to know when you have to get out of a situation. And here I should have discontinued the dogfight and ran for it, that I could live to fight another day. A mistake I learned to regret, as like right there. We're going to go ahead and go to another round. In this match, while this one goes on, I'm going to be explaining why you may cause ammo rack detonations or cause fires more than you would in other games. The reason for this is that the more times you hit a module, the more likely it is to explode. Now when you send 4 or 5 rounds in close succession to each other, or in this case more like 13 or 14 rounds, you're much more likely to destroy the module and cause fires. For this instance, I recommend aiming exactly where the engine is in the rear of a tank. If you have Armor Inspector, I recommend you take a look and find out exactly where it is so you can pump it full of lead, and most likely will cause a fire because modules can only take so much damage before they are fully destroyed. The same with an ammo rack. If you manage to hit the ammo rack enough times, it will detonate, especially when you're launching so many rounds at a time. This is the reason for all of the fires that I keep causing in some of the ammo racks. I noticed some skirmishing going on behind me, so I decided to reverse, see if there's anything that I can peek out and fire at. See, there's one guy out in the open. I'm trying not to show myself to the other 4 people, so I only look at one. I unload a couple rounds into him. Not all of them penetrate, not all of them hit, but there's a decent amount of damage done there, about 100. I come over the ridge, figure out what's going on. Looking at my right, situational awareness is key. This is one guy that's not paying attention to me. I peek down just enough to get my gun depression sufficient enough to hit him. That is one downside that I really don't like from the Luchs. You don't get the amazing gun depression since it's not that great over the front. You get a little bit more gun depression over the sides. That's a viable option, especially if you're trying to play peekaboo or just trying to show the turret. Come out from the exact side. Like right here. That way I get more gun depression. I come out, he has just enough armor to be an issue. I still manage to get most of those shells through, and some of the weak spots. You know your gun has bad penetration in some circumstances if you cannot penetrate a Japanese tank from the front with AP. That's not true of all Japanese tanks, especially Japanese heavies in PC. I really hope Japanese heavies come to Blitz, that'd be a lot of fun. Coming around the right, someone manages to take out that Japanese tank. Figuring out what's going on, I decide to run into town. The forces on the hill were a bit much for me to handle at the moment. I notice a kill right around the corner. I don't bother to switch back to AP since APCR is sufficient. Nuke one vehicle. Now back and forth, load a full round into him, catch him on fire. Absolutely wrecking this guy. So see, you just keep hitting the same area over and over and you start damaging modules. Very likely that they will be destroyed, especially when you hit them over and over again. It's life or death situation. I can't take a full clip. He can't take a full clip. I managed to defeat him before he get all shells into me. About a half second more and I would be dead. But fortunately I got lucky. Peek around the corner. This VK 28.01 is not paying attention. And I get some shots into him. For some reason my game was a little bit laggy. My shots didn't fire until after he was dead. Still a good game, showing you a little bit of how to play this. This battle is just an all-around good example of how to play this tank efficiently and effectively. I'm just a really big fan of this tank. It's in many ways it's just like a buffed Luchs. So much fun to play. I totally recommend you get one. Since it's a tier 5, it's really cheap, easy to get, easy to maintain, easy to upgrade. And the VK 28.1 is almost as good, though honestly I enjoyed the Luchs and the Leopard quite a bit more. So anyway, you're gonna go hills right off the bat. Activated speed boost, not adrenaline boost. That is impossible with an autoloader cannon. I go ahead and head on up the hill. The hill has very many advantages on this map. For an all-heavy team, they might decide to go town, and that might work for them. But when you're mostly medium or light tanks, you really need to go the hill. It's the responsible choice to do. Coming around the corner, I'm not being overly cautious. The guy in front of me is doing a lot of the scouting. I try to show my side, though I get a little bit better gun depression. Unload some shells into this M3 Lee. I back up just as someone else was firing. Looks like we have a guy who's not paying any attention at all. I get the clip reloading. He's just standing there. Get that clip reloaded, Fire, 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 fire! Not all the shells went through, because some of them hit the rock. Randomly firing off some shells there just so I can reload the clip, and maybe in one in a million chance that one would go through. It did not. Time to start the flank. They did not defend the hill, and now I'm going to show you what happens when you do not do so. In this scenario, you can either stay hill and just play peekaboom over the corner, but this would not work very well for me because of my bad gun depression, except for over the sides. Even that is not that great. Matilda BP here. Didn't go with his team. He's about to regret that. On the move, I unload some damage into him. Start a circle of death. This tank is very adept at circles of death. Most of the new German lights are. The German lights really are a game changer. Every game's a bit more dynamic with these tanks in them. Find a good spot, unload a full clip into him for 300 damage. A teammate finishes him off. Time to keep on rolling. Keep this game moving. Get that clip reloaded. Peek around the corner. They did not go hill, and they will start regretting that. Unload a full clip into him. It damages his engine. This Luchs looks like he's about to finish him off, but then he gets finished off himself. I get that clip reloaded. There's a KV-1. Time to switch to Pramo. Thankfully showing just enough his side that it's easily penetrated. He gets tracked. I consider moving in right here, and that's probably the best thing to do, because while he was reloading, even though he doesn't have a long reload. Peek around the corner. Who else am I dealing with? Looks like there's an Excelsior. The Excelsior is actually a really funny tank. It has amazing frontal and rear armor, but really bad armor everywhere else. I don't spend all my shots getting rid of him. I just shoot a few of that one Leopard. This guy is not looking at me, and in Excelsior you always want to show the front to your opponent at all times. The side armor is ridiculously wimpy. It's kind of funny having a tank that weak spots are the sides. Coming around the side of this tank, I'll load a full clip into him, catch him on fire. It is almost a 2v2 after we get this guy eliminated. The odds are most definitely in our favor. I go ahead and I don't mind reloading the clip as I notice he's just showing me his side armor. Get a few rounds into him and that's enough to finish him off. We just gotta find this last opponent who makes himself readily available for killing. There's this M4, but he was kind of regretting being there. And that's the game. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking by for another Alexbuildit production. A little bit of history, a little bit of gameplay, a little bit of review for the VK1602 Leopard. Lots of fun to play, very cheap to buy, very rewarding. You can even get 3,000 damage games in this. It's an absolute monster. Anyway, consider like, commenting, and subscribing. Alexbuildit out. Blitz on, tankers.